Hey everyone, the Super Vader 400 here, back for another retro review, and this time this is my review of the first three Killer Instinct comics in the six issue series produced by the now defunct Acclaim company. This is a remake of a video I actually already did. I actually already reviewed all six Killer Instinct comics, but I enjoyed that review, but I didn't like the final result of it. Of course, that will be in the description box below for anyone who wants to watch that review. But this is my review of the first three issues. I'm gonna review the issues one set at a time. Then when I finish the other six issues, or maybe when I finish this issue, I'm gonna review the Killer Instinct promo comic, which was released as a tie-in with the game, which was recently uploaded to Mortal Kombat Comics with a K for anyone who wants to look up that channel, that the comic which I've just recently read. And I started with the first three because these the first three comics, in my opinion, of the six issues, the first three comics, in my opinion, were the best of the Killer Instinct. Were the best of the Killer Instinct comics. And before I start, more praise. Gonna give some a little bit more praise to the Killer Instinct comics. Um, One thing I love about the Killer Instinct comics. Two things I like about the Killer Instinct comics is that unlike other comics based on video games, the Killer Instinct comics adapted the entire game. They adapted the entire first Killer Instinct game. They 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 didn't just show you what happened before the game. No, like in Mortal Kombat, what happened before the game. No, they adapted the entire game. They connected each fighter's story into one, expanding the story to places the video game could not. That's one of the things I loved about the Killer Instinct comic, and this comic was this comic was as close to the comic this comic was as close to the video game as possible, only deviating in a couple of areas, which I'm going to get to in these reviews. But but this like and this was just an awesome comic. Oh yeah, another thing I loved about this comic was that unlike the other comics, the other video game comics, Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat, and the Eternal Champions. Those comics were awesome plot wise, but they didn't have much action. Killer Instinct has a lot of action. The action sequences are just like the video game, or just like the arcade game, or just like the arcade game. Yeah. Only thing I hate about this comic is I wish Acclaim would have adapted the second game, Killer Instinct 2, also. But I'll talk more about that in a minute. But like I said, this is my review of the first three comics. These comics center around TJ Combo, Jago, Black Orchid, and Chief Thunder, who pretty much serve as the main protagonists of the first three of these comics, and of course and of course um Rip and of course Spinal, Riptor, Glacius, Fulgore, and finally Idol and the head of Ultratech serve as the antagonists of the game, with Idol and the head of Ultratech being the major overall antagonists of the first three of the entire comic book series. Um, as always, the plot of the comics is the same as the game. It's a mainstream, no host bar fighting tournament sponsored by Ultra Tech, and the story is very complex. Secretly behind the scenes, the head of Ultra Tech secretly brings a two-headed demon idol from another dimension. Like I said, everyone has their own motivation for participating in the tournament, but the tournament, like I said, the tournament mostly revolves around Jago, Black Orchid, Combo, and Chief Thunder. Chief Thunder. The first comic starts off with TJ Combo competing in the TJ Combo, who is to just like his video game backstory, is competing in the tournament for money and to get back the belt that was taken from him after he was banned from boxing for his bio enhancements. And the comic starts off with him fighting and soundly defeating Riptor. Then he defeats then in another awesome fight which mirrored the entire game, and that was his fight with Spinal, the skeleton warrior. Spinal's not only was this fight at Spinal's place in the game, the high building place you fight Spinal on. Not only was it at his place, it was just like the game. They even started off side to side, just like the video game, and Combo finished off Spinal with a knee breaker combo. He even said, knee combo. He even said, the signature combo that they yell in the video game, and Spinal was broken into several pieces, Then then it cuts to Jago, who is in a temple, just like his video game counterpart, worshiping worshiping the deity known as the tiger, the deity known as the tiger, who I think convinces him to interfere in the tournament, even though Jago questions his purpose for being at the tournament. I think tournament tournament. So then next, of course, Black Orchid. She remains for the most part true to her comic book counterpart, with her investigating, with her trying to bring down, with her trying to hack into the head of the Killer Instincts tournament's computer and put an end to the Killer Instinct games. Put an end to the Killer Instinct games. And she makes her debut. By first soundly defeating Chief Thunder, but surprising everyone, including Jago, by sparing him. Much to the disappointment of the audience. And then she goes. Then she goes to the. Then she hacks into the Ultratech. Then she hacks into Ultratech's computer and discovers the full gore model and begins to uncover Ultratech's plans. So then it continues in the next issue, where Jago makes his first entrance in the tournament, his second entrance in the tournament, where he fights Saberwolf, from the video game, and soundly defeats him with the uppercut. He even says killer. He even yells killer, just like in the game when he does it. After a long battle, he defeats Saberwolf, and just like Black Orchid before him, he spares Saberwolf. He spares Saberwolf. And shows him mercy and refuses the humiliation from the game. So next he is questioned by Combo. Who finds who finds Jago in a room once again, meditating and communicating with the tiger. And Combo questions him why he didn't finish his opponent off, and just like Orchid before him, Jago tells him he was there to test his skills against the best, and he's done that. And TJ Combo reminds him that he was once the heavyweight champion of the world, and he remembers what that was like. So yeah, then of course the next fight begins as Orchid fights as Orchid fights as Orchid fights as Orchid fights Fulgore, as Orchid fights the new Fulgore model, and after she defeats Fulgore, I think after she defeats Fulgore, um, the head of Ultratech comes on the screen and reveals Orchid as a traitor that she hacked into the files and tried to prevent an end to the game, much to the protests of the audience. Combo um, then discovers that they were using his technology. And it continues in the next issue where, as punishment for ending the Killer Instinct games, Combo, the head of Ultratech announced a series of random matches Jago, which pitched Jago versus Riptor, Spinal, Glacius, and of course Fulgore. After those guys are soundly defeated, I think TJ Combo interferes, and then TJ Combo interferes, and then they're soundly defeated. Then then um then Jago and Chief Thunder fight Idol, whom the head of Ultratech has just released from his previous dimension, whereas Black Orchid tries to track down the head of Ultratech and kill him and kill him for what he did to Fern, who I think is Saberwolf, for what he did to um Fern. So but before he can do that, she gets a message from the Tiger that Jago is in danger, and she's forced to leave the head of Ultratech and return to the battle and help Jago defeat Idol, and Jago and Orchid defeat Idol by shoving him back into his dimension. Like I said, this entire comic book was awesome. Awesome story, totally true to the game, and awesome comic book style artwork. The comic book is a cross between Marvel, DC, and and which is just like the video game. And like I said, unlike other video game based comics, lots and lots of action, man, and the action is just like the video game, You've had several different fights. In this comics, several different tournament fights in this comic, with including the giant boss battle at the end with Idol. The only thing I don't like about this comic is well, besides the fact there isn't more, that they didn't adapt the second game. I didn't I didn't like when they shoved Idol back into the dimension. That is vastly different from the game. In the game's story, Jago defeats Idol, and that sends them all the way back 200 years into the past to Tus's place, and now they have to fight. And now it's no longer a tournament. They have to fight Garganos. They have to fight. They have to fight Garganos to return home. So I'm disappointed that that didn't happen in this comic. That's the only thing different about the comic and the video game. Here they don't defeat. Here they don't kill Idol. Instead, they just throw him back into another dimension. They throw him back into the dimension he came from. Well, like I said, this was my review of the first three Killer Instinct arcs. The second video is coming next. All right, I'm out.